All right. Today's episode, guys, is a big one. We are talking about influencer marketing and e-commerce. And let's be honest, this stuff is either printing money or, frankly, it's lighting on fire. So today, guys, we have brought in Conor Jaafari from Cozy Crew Club. And he's a guy who's been in the trenches, because what he's going to do today is actually going to break down what works, what is a complete waste of time, and also how brands can actually stop getting ghosted by influencers. Then once Conor's out, Peter and I are going to debrief, and what we'll do is we'll talk about what stood out, what brands need to know, and where influencer marketing really does actually fit into your business, and of course, how that then impacts on CRO, retention, and website optimization. After we've done that, what we'll then do, we're going to dive headfirst into the good, the bad, and the ugly, or scary, if you're looking at Peter. And we're going to cover off the best of the latest ecom news. And then finally, what we'll do is wrap it up with some upcoming events and opportunities you won't want to miss. So buckle up, babes. This one is packed with some real spicy shit. Let's go.
All right, I got Conor on screen. Let's just reposition him and make him the center of attention. Hey, Adam, not you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Good, thanks. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Appreciate it. Conor, we're going to jump straight in. Let's cut straight to the chase, and let's talk about when you started Cozy Crew Club, one product, right?
Correct.
At which point did you know, shit, I've got a business on my hands here?
So, hi everyone. So I'm Conor. I'm the founder of Cozy Crew Club. We are a luxury baby brand. And as you just said, we started off the brand with just one single product, which was a baby blanket. I've always believed in like the power of coziness and feeling cozy. So what started off really as a simple product with just being a blanket has now grown into kind of like a global community of parents who love stylish, but also high quality and sustainable products for their little ones. So I think from day one of my goals was to create more than just baby essentials, but to build a brand that feels connected with people being cozy. And along the way, we've had some really good influences such as Molly May, Mrs. Hinch, the Kardashians. So I'm really excited to dive deep today and talk to you guys about influencer marketing and how it's helped shape Cozy Crew Club from that first product, from a blanket, into a whole kind of collection. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Awesome. Yeah. So on that note, from the early days, what role did influencer marketing play for you guys for that early traction?
Gosh, it was huge for us. So back in the day, I think when we first started in 2020, that was when I first started as a kind of like a side hustle on the side. I had a full-time job in marketing, and I kind of did this on the weekends and just kind of gave it my extra bits here and there. And I remember in 2020, influencer marketing was really big, and people kind of hadn't tapped into the kind of, genuine approaches of influencer marketing. If anyone put anything up, they thought it was great. They would tap the link, they would buy, they would click to see who the brand was. Nowadays, I think customers are a bit more clued up, and they kind of know, a lot of it could be either paid ads or not genuine. So influencer marketing in the early days was everything for us in the beginning. So as a startup, a small business, I had a small collection of blankets and had them stored in my mum's conservatory. So we had no budget at all for influencers. It was literally, let's try and contact some influencers in the organic approach and use the traditional kind of word of mouth marketing. So we kind of started chasing big names like right out the gate. So I thought, if I can kind of get our products, into someone who's got a big following, then it would really change the game for us. So we also believe that the product we had at the time, they would genuinely love it. They would see that the quality was great and the product would resonate with them really well. Gosh, in the first day of like influencer marketing in 2020, I remember Mrs. Hinch at the time. She's a kind of at-home influencer. Her target audience is mums, and they follow everything that she does, and anything she puts up or buys, people go crazy for. I remember thinking I need to try and get hold of her. Like, it's if we can get the product into her hands, it'd be great. I remember constantly DMing her every hour, sending, unsending, so it would go back to the top of her DMs. And eventually we got a reply, and she said she would love to receive the product. And very thankfully, she shared the product, which was great. So that was the kind of opening of the gate for us at the very, very beginning, and it opened it up for us.
And was that any kind of cost, Conor, in terms of this? Essentially, just did it
Correct. No cost at all. Obviously, with us being a small business, I think we only had like 5,000 followers at the time. And Mrs. Hinch is a really good advocate for small businesses. I also noticed she would share, obviously, she has great, huge brand deals, you know, with Fairy and huge detergent companies and things like that. But she also likes to help out small businesses. So at the time, we were very small. She knew we had no budget. And just for her sharing it on her story free of charge with a tag of the brand, you know, I think we grew by like 8,000 followers in 24 hours, which was crazy.
It's crazy.
Very lucky.
Let's take a slight step back. We were talking about this beforehand, it was just off air. What sort of gave you the confidence? What's your background, and how did you go, I know what I'm going to do here, and gave you the confidence to go, okay, cool, I'm going to jump into this e-commerce market, and I know how to market this product?
Sure. So my background is I did an undergrad in international business, and then I did my master's in marketing. And obviously from my marketing role at university and my master's, I went into a full-time digital marketing role, which taught me a lot about marketing in the digital marketing age. And then I was in that role for 2 years. And then in 2020, I set up Cozy Crew Club as kind of like a side hustle. I thought on the weekends I could, you know, learn a bit more about eCom and how to build a website and look into conversion rates. So I kind of did it on the side as like a weekend thing. And then obviously COVID came around and I got put onto furlough. So I had all this free time on my hands and I thought, you know what, I'm going to treat this ecom business that I just set up as a side thing. I had a lot of passion for it, but I couldn't commit the time fully to it because of my full-time role. So I thought, well, furlough's come along. I've got all this free extra time. So I'm going to plow all my energy and all my time into this ecom business and try and grow it throughout COVID. And obviously during this time, a lot more people were shopping online because they were at home and brand awareness was a lot more in front of people's eyes. So during them 2 years, during COVID, I really put all my efforts into the business and we grew significantly during that COVID kind of lockdown. And obviously that Mrs. Hinch shared the product, which was fantastic. And we grew a lot. So coming out of COVID, my employer said, would love to have you back, you know, to work full time. And I kind of thought, well, I've got all this marketing expertise and I've built this brand throughout COVID and I've really enjoyed it. And it's like your baby, you get so much passion for it. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this full time. So since 2022, I went full time with the role and I've grown the business significantly the last 2 years now into 2025. And we've not just got the one single product of a blanket. We've now got, you know, a whole collection of sleep suits to track suits to matching mum and baby outfits now. So my kind of background of marketing has really helped me to kind of shape the business and then just take a leap of faith and, you know, do what you've got to do and, you know, trust your instinct sometimes.
Awesome. I mean, look, we're speaking a lot about the bells and whistles here. What's one thing that you tried early doors that completely flopped?
God, there's a lot of lessons learned in the early days, but I'd say one of the biggest was probably trying to expand not into the right category. So when we first had the product, which was just a blanket, it was just a baby blanket. We thought, oh, well, maybe we could create an adult version to kind of match this. And it kind of didn't really resonate with our audience just because obviously from the first blanket, which is baby blanket, people were wanting to buy baby products, not for themselves, not adult products. So that was kind of a bit of a waste of the time. And we obviously invested a lot of money into the collection and developing it and stuff. And that kind of made us steer in the direction of baby. We thought, well, you know, people don't want an adult blanket. It doesn't resonate as well with them. That kind of shifted. So that was a bit of a flop, really, to be honest. But it's a lesson that you learn and you don't want to expand too quickly. So we test now a lot more strategically. If we're going to bring out a new product, we look for feedback from our community to see if it's something they want or if it's something they don't want. So then we know if it's an area we want to go into. So that kind of feedback really helps. But obviously back in the day, then I didn't really know much and wasn't utilizing the community that we had, which we do nowadays. So you've got to use your community where you can.
I mean, I know you mentioned obviously at the start there about sort of Molly May, and obviously you talked about Mrs. Hinch then, and I think you guys also had a kind of feature on the Kardashians as well, didn't you? Which is incredible. And
yes.
What I wanted to ask is to the people listening is that when you look at that process for reaching out to getting influence onto your brand, is there something specifically that you do or a series of things that you do? Or has it been more the case for you guys that you've been picked up first by a brand, by an influencer?
So back in the day, it would be us picking. So we would reach out to them and we would personally direct them, like personally direct message them and, you know, try and get their attention, really comment on their post, do anything to kind of get the brand in front of them, to kind of let them know about the brand and say that we want to share our products with you, which was amazing. And obviously, I think when women are having pregnancy, it's a very, connected, emotional time, and they want to make sure they've got everything that they need for their little one. So the personal and direct approach definitely helped. And then as we've grown, we tend to get just influencers who obviously see the brand and, they kind of start following us, and then it's a good sign for us to be like, they like the brand, they're following us, we were already following them, and then we can kind of come together to gift them and find a middle ground where we can give them what they need, and also we can gain from them at the same time. But build that connection, I think, is really important, especially if we get a good response from them. It's building that long-term kind of connection. But I would definitely say the first route is to go personal and direct, and reach out to them and slide in them DMs, really.
I mean, I want to come back to that sort of like the DM side and sort of emails in a sec. Have you gone down the route of like working with an influencer marketing agency, or is that not something you've explored?
Yeah, so I've had people reach out to us from influencer marketing agencies, but I've always wanted to keep it in-house, really, to be honest. I think the way that we do influencer marketing is really personal, it's really curated, and we really like to add that personal touch to it. And I didn't want to outsource that and kind of lose that connection with our kind of influencers, because in a way it's helped us grow so much, and it still helps us grow today. So I wanted to monitor that really closely. So we've kept it in-house. So we can add all that personal touch and have direct contact with them to see, whatever they need, they can reach out to us, and we can provide that kind of bespoke, custom, one-to-one service, which I think is really important. And obviously, it helps with the cost of influencer agencies are also very expensive as well. So it depends. I think influencer agencies are great for kind of, putting together the deals and the contracts and that type of thing. So it depends what kind of route you're kind of going down. But we've found to keep it in-house has been beneficial for us.
And when you go out to them in terms of like the actual sort of the outreach to them, what sort of things are you saying to those DMs and emails? Is it sort of more about sort of building a relationship first, just trying to sort of get friendly with them? Are there others that you kind of get them more like, okay, well, look, this is the deal and what you do? Like, do you change tact on the kind of person it is, or does it tend to be the same formula that you tend to use?
It's very similar, the formula we tend to use. So we always start the message with kind of like a hook. So obviously when you're going through your DMs, obviously they have hundreds and stuff if they're kind of a big influencer. So we always try and get that first line to have a kind of hook, because they can see the preview. So if we can get something to kind of grab their attention, that's always really good to get them to open the message. That's the first thing, is to get them to actually open the message out of the hundreds that they get. And then we kind of focus on kind of the message that we create to them. It's personal. It's talking about their, pregnancy, their arrival, if they've got, a surname already for the baby, so Baby Smith or whatnot, or Baby Haig or Baby Fury. We can curate the message to be personal to them, and then we kind of we never pressure the influencer kind of share the product, or they have to share it. It's just more about sharing our product with them, and if they enjoy the product, they can share it off their own bat. We never pressure them to share or anything like that.
And does it more start out with kind of that request to sort of share on socials, and then does product, sort of gifting product or a deal with a product come after that?
Yeah, most to speak, yeah. If it tends to work well for us, we kind of continue to gift them, or, set up a sort of deal where if we send them certain amounts of clothes every couple of months or so on. So it's based on the first kind of reaction we get from them. Did we get a good kind of following growth? Did we kind of get any sales from it? That kind of stuff. So we have to analyze all that at the same time. And then the relationship can then develop in a positive trajectory if it's worked well for us.
Cool. I mean, you kind of mentioned earlier as well about sort of thinking about influencers, and it's something I think that I see is that there seems to be sort of two broad pots here. One is where you have a situation where it feels very natural. That person feels, that they, yes, again, in your case, the people you work with, again, if they're pregnant, if they've just recently had a pregnancy, if they're a particular age, all that kind of stuff. But I suppose the other side of it is you look at some of them, it can sort of feel a bit disingenuous. And I think actually at the last eCom Club we did, we had a big discussion about this actually with Sam from Batch London. I suppose what I'm interested in is that when you kind of look out into the market, you obviously see a lot of sort of, influencer type approaches going on. What do you see as some of the mistakes that a lot of people tend to make when they get on this route?
Yeah, so I'd say it's finding a good selection for your brand. So you really need to analyze who the influencer is and who you're looking at, really. So first of all, I would say it's not just about the follower count. That's not important. So, you could have 10 million, 15 million. We've sent to someone with 10 million followers and got like 2-3 new followers in return. Like, it's crazy. So it's about looking at the metrics of engagement. So we take a deep dive into their kind of comments. Are they genuine? The likes that are appearing on their kind of post, are these like not bot accounts? Are they genuine accounts? And the authenticity of their communication with their audience and the audience trust. So I think that's really important. Does the audience trust this influencer, what they're saying, the kind of products that they're sharing? I think that's really important. So for influencers, we generally like ones to connect with their audience. So they don't necessarily have to have a huge following. They can kind of have a small micro kind of influencer following, but it's about the audience connecting with the influencer, and whether that's they share their personal stories of being a mum, the kind of hardships, the struggles, the kind of joys of motherhood, and building that kind of strong engagement with their community. So if an influence audience is mostly bots or like uninterested followers, their posts or stories won't convert and people just won't be interested in your kind of brand. So, we've had loads of kind of, so to speak, models or OnlyFans models who are pregnant and reach out to us and, kind of ask for influencing products. And we just know that their audience is not a match for ours. It's, 95% men and not interested in baby products. So it's about finding that match and that kind of authenticity with the audience. And it's not just about followers. So we like to prioritize followers who fit our brand values. So people who create content around parenthood, coziness, and just like real life kind of moments. So you have to really dig deep and make sure you're looking at the influencers before you even approach them, really, because it's a huge saturated market now, not only just on Instagram but also on TikTok. So it's about finding that fit, I think.
Great, cool.
Conor, so on that note about making sure they're the right fit, I think a lot of brands, and Adam in the intro sort of touched on this, many brands struggle to turn influencer posts into actual sales, right? Sometimes it generates traffic, sometimes it's a complete flop, but even once it is, they are on a website and all of that, how do you ensure that influencer marketing actually drives those sales?
Sure. So kind of back to what I said before previously, is about storytelling and creating a kind of influencer who likes to share stories with their kind of audience as an influencer. So I would say you want to give that influencer the freedom to kind of create around your product. So that creative freedom really allows them to storytell, which helps their audience buy into it more, I'd say. So for example, if you've got an influencer, they love storytelling and they tell about their day-to-day life. And if they can kind of incorporate your product naturally into that kind of daily life, it comes across a lot more authentic and genuine. So I would say definitely start with creative freedom for your influencer. Allow them to take the reins because they kind of know what works best for their audience and how to connect with their audience. And then follow this up with kind of like a clear call to action. So, you can get this at so-and-so or personalize it with this. So give them a clear call to action. And then post you want kind of post that feel like not too ad kind of scale. So they don't want to push it right directly in their face, but it's in a kind of like a subtle way because followers will just scroll past that. If they see it's ad-like and they're holding the product up straight away and showing it here, there and everywhere, it doesn't come across genuine. So if they build it into a storytelling kind of mode, I think that's really good. So we encourage influencers to share their real life kind of experiences. So a kind of unboxing video or a mum hack or a genuine reaction kind of works well. Because we really want to make it easy for them to kind of make genuine content. But then we also want to make sure that the audience who is following this influencer, they have an easy way to shop. So whether that's a quick direct product link in the kind of story or just an exclusive discount code on their Instagram, the less friction, kind of the better, so they can quickly translate it over. So it's a combination of the two. So creative freedom with a kind of subtle call to action to make sure we're still getting that conversion. And that's kind of the advice I would say to kind of drive the actual revenue.
Yeah. And let's just maybe just dig deeper on that for a bit. In terms of actually working with that creator or that influencer from that point, how involved are you getting and how directional are you getting with, hey, this is the type of content that I want you to do, or you just going, look, it's up to you how you present this product?
It's a kind of in the middle kind of zone. So we kind of leave it to well, this is the product. We give them a bit of a background about the product, what the features are of the product, whether it's, one of our sleep suits, for example, will say, well, it's got a two-way zipper. We should emphasize this. It's got mittens, for scratching. It's kind of got bamboo and organic cotton material. So we like to highlight some of the features to them to make sure that they are communicating the features to the kind of audience. But then at the same time, we want it to come across genuine. So it's kind of like a 50-50. It's kind of meeting in the middle of between like showcasing some of the product features that you want them to make sure that they highlight, but doing it in a way that's kind of subtle but genuine to that audience through their storytelling. So you kind of have to meet them in the middle. So you have to constantly monitor that. So you always approach it with a kind of agenda and what you're kind of looking for from the collaboration. And then at the same time, you trust their vision and their kind of connection with their audience. So it makes them feel kind of, connected and worthy of promoting your product. And it comes across a lot more genuine, really, because they at the end of the day are the creator, and they do kind of know what works best as well for their audience. So it's a two-way street, 50-50, I would say.
Yeah, awesome. And then let's get down to the nitty-gritty of money. How do you structure deals? Is it flat fees, commission, gifted products? And, this is the argument that I see so many gurus in this space go, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. But, it just seems like there's no really set way. What's your preferred way, and what do you find works best?
It is tricky, and it does really depend on the kind of brand and the product that you are, kind of showcasing, and also the influencer and the goal of the campaign. So it does depend, but I'd say for us, so we use them, I'd say 80 to 90% is gifted collaborations. So we really focus on building that genuine connection, making sure that everything is kind of gifted in a natural way so that they showcase the product naturally. And also it helps keep costs down as well, because we still are only a small business, and we're not the likes of Boohoo and the big corporations who can, throw out 20,000-30,000 pounds on posts. We can't do that, unfortunately. So we really focus on gifted collaborations, and then it builds long-term relationships. So if we have an influencer who's pregnant, and she'll showcase the product before the baby arrives, maybe then after the baby arrives, and then a year later down the line. So we kind of build this relationship along the way, and it shows that she genuinely likes the brand and building a relationship with her audience, showcasing the brand along the way. So we use majority gifted, and then occasionally we move into then the kind of either commission-based deals or flat fees, which we use for our micro influencers and to mid-tier kind of influencers. These are really good for leveraging UGC content, which we can then repurpose for ads specifically on TikTok. So if we're looking at kind of the lower micro influencers, so that's 10K to 50K on TikTok or whatnot, we tend to work on a commission-based deal. So we'll give them an affiliate code on TikTok, and they will create UGC content talking about the brand, showcasing the brand, and every sale that they get on TikTok Shop or on TikTok, they're getting commission-based. So it's good because it kind of drives them to kind of create really engaging, nice videos that kind of sell the product. And they won't just do it once, they'll do 2 or 3 videos a month pushing the product. But then it also allows you as a brand to have all this amazing UGC content that you can then repurpose for your Instagram, for your paid ads as well, which is really good. So you can look at what videos are converting well and repurpose them. So I would say for the micro influencers, commission-based deals are great, and it's also costly effective as well. If you're giving them 10% of every sale or 5%, you can work out, what works best for your brand based on, your kind of margins. So I'd say commission-based is great for micro. And then you move on to your next stage, which is if you do want to go down that route, which we've done maybe once or twice, is your kind of mid-tier influencers, which is, between your 50K to 2K followers, which I still think is a really good engaged kind of, you can then work on a flat fee basis where it's like, we'll pay you £3,000 for a grid post, and in return we want this and this, or two stories, 3 stories. But we don't rarely use them unless we've used them in a gifted basis and the response has been amazing. Then we'll go down that route. But it depends on the brand and the product that you're showcasing. Some products people might not want to showcase, or they might not, it's a gifted product, they might not want to showcase it to their audience. So it depends what the product is. You then might have to go down the more paid route if it's the kind of product they don't want to share to their audience. It does depend on the influencer and also on the kind of product you're showcasing, but that's the kind of structure we use. So 80% gifting, probably 10% micro kind of commission-based deals, and then occasionally a 5% flat fee.
Yeah, you mentioned in there that as well, that you utilizing the ones from the micro influencers around your your paid ads as well. Are you also taking that content and putting it on site and using that as trust builders?
Yes, definitely. So on the product pages, we kind of, when you scroll down, you have our Trustpilot reviews, and then we've just got a new feature added to the website where you can kind of have a carousel of videos. So it's like all our UGC videos sitting there. And then I think that helps with conversion rate, because customers are then not only seeing the product photos, the product description, the product reviews, they're now seeing UGC videos. So they're seeing it live in action, how the products are, being used, which is fantastic. And they're all kind of personalized reviews. So it takes it to that next level. So you can repurpose it for things like that, which is fantastic. Yeah. There's a great actually add-on app on Shopify called Section Store. And you can buy certain sections for like $10, and they have a UGC video add-on you can add to your website for $10, and then you can pop all your carousel videos in there, which is great.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we tend to use video-wise with a lot of brands as well. When we've done A/B tests on this and including different influencer videos, it really does move metrics on site.
Yeah.
If you are listening and you don't use your influencer content on site, make sure that you do. It is a game changer on that front as well.
I agree.
If you're listening, don't do that, because I talk to them day in, day out, and please do it. Connor's told you to do it.
Yeah.
Just thanks. Rant over. Good. Connor, I don't usually say this, but I'm going to call Peter Positive Peter, because he seems to have gone down this route of asking you some quite nice, positive, constructive questions.
Yeah.
I want to flip that on its head now. I want to talk about the shit side now, the downsides. Thinking about obviously different things you've got, and obviously I'm not expecting you to name names here, but and if you can, great, because I'd love some goss. But if you think about the biggest influencer flop that you had, talk us through how it was set up, and then maybe sort of dissect it. So let's have a funeral per se for that particular campaign that was a flop.
Yeah, so I would say it was a gifted approach. So obviously at the time we were still quite on the small side, and at this time we were kind of accepting any gifting that we could, just to kind of get the name out there. So we gifted to a lady in particular, and she had a decent following. So we thought it would be a great way to kind of get the name kind of out there of the brand. She was expecting at the time, but then kind of she was surrounded by a kind of media storm kind of bad events that were happening at the time. As she shared the product, it kind of had a bit of a backlash on us, and we were kind of associated with someone who, had a bad press name, and there was a lot of drama around it. And so she had a community online who were kind of trolling her, and it kind of translated over to our page. So anything she would share, or any product she would kind of share or tag, the people who were trolling her would then come over to our page, and then they would leave negative reviews on Trustpilot, and then they would comment on all our kind of posts, which was kind of bad, because we were a small brand at the time, so we were just trying to get our name out there. And then, but it goes to show you should kind of look at the audience, or not the audience, the influencer you are sending to, because even though they have a following and it's going to get your name out there, you can also kind of get the backlash from it as well. So I would definitely make sure you kind of look into that properly, because it wasn't a nice experience. And I thought, oh gosh, have I damaged the brand for just the sake of sharing a product for free with an influencer? But it passed after a couple of days, and then the trolls moved on to some other brand who, sent her a product and so on. So it was just a continuous cycle. But we've learned a lesson from that, to make sure you're really looking into who you're sending to, and you don't really want that bad association attached to your brand in a way. At the time, we were just trying to do good and, send some nice product, but it was a kind of a bit disaster, so to speak, and I learned a lot from it. So I won't be doing that again for sure.
I suppose it's quite hard, isn't it? Because look, ultimately you're dealing with human beings here. And I think, this, I guess, is probably why some people are a little bit fearful of influencer marketing, because, in one respect, like you said, you lay down those dimensions of what you want, but ultimately they're not a business. They are a human being as well. And I guess it's the two obviously overlap, don't they, quite a lot. And I think, that's probably something that people talk about. I mean, I suppose the other thing here is that if you have brands listening to this, a little bit like, if you're going on Tinder and you're looking for that next date, what would you say are the red flags that you see when influencers approach you? Because when brands approach us, we have certain red flags, types of email addresses, types of products, the way they write their emails. For us, we're like, yeah, we know this isn't going to be a client for us. But what do you see when influencers contact you that you're like, nah, thanks?
Yeah, so straight away it'd be the kind of following, like we immediately tap on their followers and look through, and like the first kind of 20 to 30, if you can see the kind of all bots and just kind of no profile pictures, 0 posts, we're like, this is not a good shout. Then we go over to the actual, post, look at their comments. The video's got 20,000 likes, but 2 comments. It's like, it's not adding up. It's not genuine engagement. Kind of all kind of bought kind of followers. So it doesn't really align with who we are. And yeah, we get this, like we must get about 3 or 4 of these a week where they're kind of DMing us on Instagram, and we can kind of suss them out now, and we kind of know. We'll always send a polite message and say we're just not. Our gifting is kind of, we're full at the moment. We've not got any kind of upcoming paid collaborations or gifting opportunities, but you really do have to siphon through them to make sure. And then again, email, you can kind of tell by the tone of voice, if they've kind of, how they've laid out the message. Are they even, one of my biggest pet hates is they don't even follow the brand or like, showing an interest in the brand. And I'm like, why are you even
come on, do your homework?
Yeah, like that's the first thing. Like, at least follow the brand or be engaged in the brand or take an interest in the brand. Like, and you can just tell it's a copy and pasted message they've sent to 20, 30 different brands. Obviously, they're trying to get themselves out there or do a bit of hustle, but at least be following and take a genuine interest in the brand, because that's what we want. We're trying to build a connection between the audience and the influencer and with our brand in the middle. So if you've not got that genuine appreciation and love for the brand, or you're not even following or taking an interest, it's just not going to resonate. So make sure they're following you first or showing some sort of interest, because that is a red flag straight away.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You guys are seeing quite a bit of organic demand from the US and the UAE. How does influencer marketing change when expanding internationally?
Gosh, yeah, there's a lot to think about when we're moving internationally. So we've started to do a bit of gifting now into the USA, which has been great. So we had Kourtney Kardashian, which was a really exciting one for us. And also, even though they are US-based influencers, you do tend to forget that they do actually have an international audience as well. But I think expanding internationally definitely means you have to adapt your influencer strategy to different cultures and buying behavior. So what necessarily has worked in the UK wouldn't necessarily work in the USA or the UAE. So, for example, I'd say for the USA, influencers over there really tend to focus on reliability and just like storytelling. Like the Americans love a kind of reaction story and unboxing, that kind of build up and that hype. So in that kind of perspective, UGC and TikTok style content works amazingly in America. I'd say here in Australia, it's more aesthetic focused and how you can picture it in your nursery and so on, whereas America is definitely more storytelling, and they rely heavily on influencer reviews before purchasing. So what do they think of it? Like, do they really dissect the product? So the US are really heavy on storytelling and that over dramatic unboxing and showcasing the product. And then I'd say for other markets, which we've tapped into a little bit for influencing in Dubai and the UAE, they really focus on luxury and exclusivity. That really matters to them. Kind of unboxing experience. Customers really respond better to influencers in that side of the world when they kind of create a high-end aspirational content. This is what you want your baby to be wearing, and kind of giving that high status influencer drive for the customer to trust it. I think that works at a different angle. It's very glamorous and luxury, the UAE and Dubai, and that kind of content works really well for that kind of niche. So we like to localize the content if we can, and making sure we're using the right terminology, spelling and things like that. Obviously, it's worked well for us, cozy, because cozy for us is spelled with a Z. So in America, cozy is spelled with a Z. In the UK, it's actually an F. So it's actually translated quite well over there. So make sure you're using the right terminology, pricing on your website in the local currency. So when you are getting them influencers to convert people over, you've got a website that's localized in terms of language, currency, and making sure your product positioning fits kind of each market if you are delving into them other kind of influencers or other kind of parts of the world, for sure. So you got to look at the market and see what's working there and lean into the trends for the kind of culture and stuff as well.
Yeah. And in terms of, I'm changing lanes quite a bit here, but in terms of how influencers work with you, if you were an influencer yourself, you go about approaching brands. I know you've touched on this a little bit about making sure that you at least follow the brand 100%. I mean, how do you then set yourself up as as a standout, somebody that brands will want to be an influencer with. Don't think about follower count and their followers and things like that. Let's think more about how they interact with you as a brand. What's your sort of wish list that you just wish these influencers were doing to help you to make everything better?
Yeah, so I would say if you're on the micro influencer side, to your smaller kind of TikTok influencers below 10K, I would say they have to show an interest in the brand by maybe signing up to we have a Shopify collabs kind of affiliate program. So that's a really simple way of just showing an interest in the brand by sharing their own affiliate code and their own discount code. And they can do that for free of charge. So they can sign up on the website. They don't even have to buy any product. They can simply just screenshot product photos, share it on their story, share it on their kind of reels, share their affiliate code. And then automatically that kind of shows to me, okay, they like the brand. They want to showcase the brand. How can we take that to the next level? So then we'd have some smaller UGC influencers who would then maybe purchase a product and actually just do a review free of charge, tag us, and then they'll grab our attention and we'll be like, oh, wow, they've done a really good review. The content's really genuine. So then this has happened many times before and it's kind of grabbed our attention, and then we've built a long-term relationship with them, and they maybe only bought a product for like £10-15, but the review that they've done is so genuine and it showed an interest in the brand and it's caught our attention. And then we've taken our relationship to the next level, and then we'll continuously gift them products and they'll grow their following and they'll also grow ours. So I think Shopify collabs has allowed us to kind of look at the smaller audiences and see if they are connected to the brand. They've already shown an interest in the affiliate program. Let's utilize them and take them to the next level for kind of UGC. And then for kind of the more medium to larger influencers, like your celebrities and bigger influencers, it's just simple stuff like, okay, like you said, they're following the brand, or they've kind of liked or commented, or, you know, they're even in the pregnancy kind of realm and showing an interest in the brand, which is great. Like I said, nowadays we're very lucky. A lot of influencers will just, as soon as they find out they're pregnant, they'll see the brand and they'll start engaging and following the brand, which is fantastic, which gives us a good sign. So I'd say, yeah, that are the kind of things to look out for, but always just look for someone who just shows a genuine interest in the brand and wants to connect with you and create nice, cozy content.
And then once they on board with you as one of the people that you're going to be working with, what are the things that you want them to be doing proactively, and things that you don't want to chase them for, etc.? What are the things that like really stand out for you?
Yeah, so proactively, I would say focusing on storytelling, highlighting the key features of the brand, what the brand stands for, unique selling points, which is the personalization, the two-way zippers, the softness, the coziness. So I'd always make sure they're sharing the kind of the correct brand messaging, and then also that their call to actions are correct. So they are providing the correct affiliate link, right discount code, etc., and that they are kind of producing these conversions. I'd say that's really important, and just kind of building a genuine connection with their audience and with us as a brand, and keeping a good steady relationship, really.
And then while we're on that sort of like line of thinking, what are the tools that are just like no-brainers for you to have when doing influencer marketing that you guys have to have in your armory?
Oh yeah, so definitely. So we're always looking at engagement rates. So there's a few different tools you can use to find out kind of engagement rates for the kind of influencers that you're using, whether they're high or low. And then we like to keep a database of kind of monitoring if we've gifted to them before. Is it the first time we're gifting, second time, third time? And then we like to monitor the kind of reaction we get from them. So have we had a follower growth? Was it 200 followers, 100 followers? Have we had any conversions? Have people used their discount code? How many times has that been used, etc.? So we can really pin back everything from this gifting approach. Has it increased brand awareness, Google searches, so on? So we can really link it back, especially with the affiliate code ones or the micro, smaller influencers. We can really trace them back. With the gifted ones, it's a little bit trickier. We can only really go off following count and the conversions from that day using their discount code. But the micro and kind of smaller influencers who have an affiliate code, it's much easier to track. We can look at everything from engagement rate to conversion rate and to following count, etc. So that's a really good way to make sure you've got all them metrics set out. So I would create yourself, if you can, if you've got the time, a spreadsheet, the name of the influencer, their handle, their delivery address, their engagement rate, everything like that. And then each time you are gifting or working with an influencer, you're tracking it. There is a lot of software you can get out there to do this as well. It can be a bit pricey, so it depends what your budget is, but you can get a lot of software that can help monitor it and do it for you as well.
Do you sell stuff online? Then you need Omnisend. Yes, that's Omnisend. the powerful yet refreshingly intuitive email SMS tool that helps you make on average $73 for every dollar spent. Like watching say lines go up and up? Just automate your email SMS with Omnisend. Set it up once, then sit back and watch the sales roll in or you snooze. Oh, okay, you're still awake? Well, go to omnisend.com/ECC. Give Omnisend a try and don't forget to use code ECC30 for a discount. Right, so Conor, I've got a few last questions for you and then we are going to go and get some questions from as well. So I see a couple have come in already. So if you have any questions for Conor, do pop them in there. I wanted to ask you here about thinking about, a few sort of things looking forward. If you're a brand sitting there right now, you're saying, look, let's say, for example, you've got a budget of say $5,000. Should they put that into ads or influencer marketing?
Oh, that is a tricky question. So I would probably say it obviously depends on the kind of size of the company, but I would probably say I would put 80% into kind of influencer marketing. So I would say, no, actually probably say 70%. So you could leverage a lot, but I'd focus on these smaller creators, so micro influencers, really utilize that UGC content because it's going to make, if you've got £5,000, you probably say, I'm going to pop in 3.5 into influencer marketing. It's going to get me 10 different small micro influencers. They're going to create 10 UGC videos automatically. That's 10 videos for your review page on your on your product page. Is going to increase your conversion rate. Then you're going to also be able to utilize and repurpose these influencer marketing, kind of videos, UGC for your paid ads. So at the start, you're utilizing all these videos. They're genuine. They're going to create also some brand awareness and some sales for you. And then you can repurpose all of these for your paid ads in your long-term strategy, because obviously paid ads are super important. So you've got to think of long-term strategy. So these 10 videos that you're going to pay for, with the 70% of the budget is going to pay for that, and then you can reinvest the rest into the paid ads, start them going and leverage them slowly and grow your paid ads budget.
No, I like that, because I think that's the thing, we see that a lot with our kind of agency hats on, is that people don't repurpose things, they don't recycle, they don't reuse, and I think you can go too far with it where it is the same content years again, but like you say, in that situation you've got so much that you can get from that initial, you've got the benefit of the influencer campaign anyway, but then like you say, it feeds the website, it feeds the paid ads and so on and so forth. So yeah, I like that. And I think the other thing is thinking about this year and sort of, as we're getting into 2025 now, people are waking up and getting going. When you think about influencer strategies, do you think there's any shifts that people need to either make in terms of practically, tactically what they're doing, or from a mindset point of view, they need to stop doing things that they did last year?
Yeah, definitely. I would say for this year, I think people are focusing a lot on community. Community is becoming super, super important across social media. So if you are thinking of doing, I know a lot of brands tend to do a lot of, in the past, they have done a lot of influencer marketing events. So they'll create like a big party, like a brunch, and they'll invite 10 influencers along, quite big influencers. They'll pay them to not only come to the brunch, but then they'll also then pay to put on the kind of brunch. So I feel like people are moving away from paying these influencers a lot of money to not only attend, but also to be there, and focusing more on community. So they're inviting actual, real, genuine customers who have shopped and bought with them, and they tend to connect 10 times more with your audience sometimes. So it creates that sense of community and like genuine approach. So what would have cost a lot more money, hiring all these influencers who may not even want to be there or showing a genuine interest into the brand, you've now got these 10 people for no cost at all, but they genuinely care about the brand, and they're going to create genuine content that connects with the audience who already follow you, because they're also mums, is a really good way. So I would definitely say to focus on community in 2025 is a huge thing, and don't sleep on the community you've built. Get them involved, whether it's going for like a yoga morning, or it depends what kind of your brand is. So I know a lot of brands like Adenola Represent, they're doing fitness clubs, so they're getting all their kind of people like the Represent Manchester brand. They did a run club in Manchester. They got all the people who love the brand, and they went on like a morning run and kind of just did a community building influencer marketing type thing. So community is definitely huge in 2025, and it's going to continue to trend as well, I think, throughout the rest of the year and into next year.
No, I agree. And I think, look, I definitely saw last year, I spent some time in New York in July, and I saw there was a lot of talk about kind of experiential events, and a lot of brands, doing, like you say, things like brunches, things like events. and I think, from the UK brand point of view, we're sort of catching up with that a little bit now and looking at that as a more, realistic thing you do. And like you said, Dana, I love that idea that you've got is that you're blending the two kind of groups of people together. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, before we go to Q&A from the audience, talk us through, I guess, like the plans for Cozy Crew Club, my apologies, in 2025. What's on the cards?
Oh gosh, so we've got a lot of product expansion, which is super exciting. Last year, we launched our first matching tracksuit collection, which was for baby and for mum, so they could be matching. So we're expanding this range this year into new colours, into new styles. So we have lots of new exciting product development coming in 2025, which is super, super exciting. And we're looking to expand and build a deeper community. So talking about what I said before, building that community experiences. And then not only that, we're hoping to look into growing internationally as well. So we're only focused on the UK market, but potentially we can look at internationalization. And then we're also looking to continue to build them solidified retail partnerships, which we've done in the last year. Casa Children's Wear in Blue Water in Dartford, we've built a really good relationship with them. And so we want to continue to focus on retail and building a really nice, cozy lifestyle brand. That's the most important thing for me, building a community and making everyone feel part of the experience. So lots of exciting things ahead for 2025, and I'm excited to see what's coming for the rest of the year.
Love it. Thank you so much. Kind of like this has been brilliant. And obviously, we've had you talk at eCom Cloud Club in terms of the event in London, and it's been great again to have you on the podcast. And I really appreciate you kind of sharing what you have. We've actually got some questions from the audience. If it's okay, we can throw those over to you now. So, sure. Peter, do you want to take us through these?
Yeah. So Graham Davies asks, does the TikTok ban in the US cause any immediate issues for eCom, or are users, influencers simply switching to Instagram?
So I would say, yeah, it definitely does. Obviously, we're not focused on the US market just yet, but I have seen a few brands that rely heavily on TikTok, and it's crazy how much the ban was going to affect them or will affect them. So, for example, a lot of e-com brands I've noticed, I'd say 80%, some of them solely rely on TikTok Shop, which is crazy. They have a website, but they're driving so much traffic and paid ads through TikTok Shop that if TikTok Shop was to kind of go bust, it's kind of very, very risky for your business. So I would say omni-channel presence is really important. Don't just rely on TikTok. Focus on Instagram, on Meta, Facebook, even Snapchat. Kind of go for that omni-channel presence and make sure you're spreading your budget accordingly. Or influencers, influencers for Instagram are great, but it depends on where your audience is sitting. Are they more focused on TikTok? So it definitely does pose a threat, definitely for eCom. So we'll see if they manage to get that worked out.
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, they pass some new rules and it all changes. So Gary Taylor asks, may have missed this, but do you pick and pack your own orders or outsource?
So currently, we pick and pack our own orders in-house, which is super exciting, but it's also a lot of stress. But again, it goes back to that personal touch. We're really focused on creating a personal experience for our customers and also the influencers involved. So picking and packing our own orders is really useful because we can really monitor and make sure every customer is having that influencer experience, that nice unboxing. So yeah, we do it all in-house, and we have since the start. I have explored fulfillment along the way. I go back and forth with it every year. I'm like, should we move into it? Should we not? So, but currently at the moment, we pick and pack our own orders, and it's been that way since we first started the brand. And I would definitely recommend it. It's a lot of stress, but you have control over everything that you're sending out, and that really personal experience and touch you can add along the way.
Yeah, I suppose with you working so much with those influencers, you want that package that they unbox live and things like that to really feel, high-end and premium, as you said earlier, right?
Definitely, yeah. And we can do that in-house, which is great. Obviously, we offer a lot of personalization on our products in terms of embroidery. And so we can do that in-house quickly and effectively. Some influencers have trusted us with their baby's name before it's even been announced to the public. So we can do that and keep it in-house and exclusive and not make them feel part of the community, which is nice.
You're going to get a lot of people hitting you up to try and see what the odds are on names in the future.
Well, lives the seal.
And then Rich Evans has popped in to ask you a wonderful question. I think he's just trying to poke the bear here. Excuse the pun as well. With the influencer budget, would you go big on 3 or 4 bigger names or spread it thinner amongst a lot more micro and nano accounts? I think this is at the back of a big argument at eCom Collab Club, Adam.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I personally don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, so I would spread it thinner amongst micro and nano accounts. It depends what level you're at as well. If you've never explored influencer marketing before, then I wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket and go for the big names. I would spread it thinly and test the waters and first see how it kind of works for you as a brand and what kind of content you create from it, and then how you can change that and leverage that. So personally, I'd probably go for the spread it thinner.
Cool. And then we've got just a few more while we still got you for, I think, a few more minutes, if you don't mind, Conor.
Sure.
Some others that did come through from people. Let me just get those up. Biggest influencer marketing myth.
I'd probably say that bigger is always better. So brands think, let's back to the question before, brands think a huge influencer is going to mean like huge sales, but that's not always necessarily the case, because we've seen micro influencers with 10K followers outperform celebrities with 10 million followers. It's honestly crazy. So big audience is not always better. Sometimes the smaller audiences can always be engaged. And another myth I'd probably say is that people tend to think that one influencer post will change your business overnight. And probably the best results probably come from a more consistent exposure, not just a one-off shout out. So building that relationship with them to kind of share the product more than once, definitely.
So a great tool, but not the silver bullet.
Yes.
Cool. Another quick fire one there. Worst influencer experience you've had?
Oh gosh, best one. It was probably back to what I said earlier on, which was the one where you gift into a product to an influencer who kind of is not kind of favorable celebrity or influencer at the time, and you kind of get a bit of a backlash from their followers and the trolls. So yeah, I'd probably say that's probably the worst experience we've probably had, without naming any names.
Oh, we need the names, Conor. We need the names. Name and shame. All right. Most unexpected celeb to ever have ordered from you, besides the Kardashians, because I think we've already touched that.
Yeah. Gosh, I would say I had a really nice one from Amy Hart from Love Island. She was quite big back in the day. She went out with Curtis, who's currently on the current season, and she's got a really good following, 1.5 million. And she's a mum, and her audience is super engaged. And I think one of the best things I love about unexpected celebs when they order from you is, originally we did gift to her one product, and then she came back 3 or 4 times and just purchased on her own accord, which was amazing. And she shared them as well on the back of that. So that was amazing, because it was not only we'd built a relationship with her, we'd gifted her product, but then she'd come back and actually bought the products herself, paid for them herself 3 or 4 times, but then had the genuine heart to kind of share them again. So shout out to Amy Hart for continuing to support the brand along the way and purchasing from us. So that was really nice.
And then I believe this is the last question for you to part us with. What's one eCom brand that's killing influencer marketing right now?
Gosh, I'd have to say it's going to be a shout out to a fellow Manchester brand. At the moment, for me, it's got to be Adenola, and with Hiram Cook, who's also from Manchester. They're a UK-based activewear brand, and they've been killing it with influencer marketing, like integrating the community aspect of kind of creating community build events, but then also high-profile collaboration. So they just announced their collaboration with Kendall Jenner, which was massive. The kind of outreach that's had. So to see a Manchester brand start, 5-6 years ago and get to that scale of now they're scaling in America, and they've got Kendall Jenner on board, but they've kind of got that big influencer, high profile collaborations, but they're also focusing on community, which is also really important to me as well. And they're leveraging TikTok really well. And so I think they've combined high profile collaborations with grassroots community engagement. I think Adenola has definitely utilized influencer marketing really well. So I'm proud to be from Manchester and seeing brands like that doing great. So hopefully future's bright.
Awesome. Matt, this has been straight up gold. Thank you so much for the complete honesty, I would say, and the download. And I think, if people are looking to get in influencer marketing here and didn't know where to get started, I think if they listen to this today, I think they've got 100% a game plan on how to get started and what to get started with. So thank you so much for being so generous with that knowledge, Conor. I really do appreciate it.
And I think, if you're listening to this, guys, I would say re-listen to it again, because there's some real gold in here and the things that you can think about and strategize from what Conor said. And I think, ultimately as well, follow Conor, follow Cozy Crew Club, because you see the things that Conor is doing in his team. And ultimately as well, if you know a founder out there that is thinking about influencer marketing who needs this episode, to obviously share it with them as well. But Conor, look, thank you so much, mate. Really good to have you on, and yeah, we'll speak very soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me. And if anyone wants to ask any questions about influencer marketing or anything like that, just drop me a message on LinkedIn, or my Instagram handle is Conor the Founder. And any questions you have, just let me know. But thanks again for having us, guys. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Our pleasure, Conor. What a man.
Yeah, I've just got to do a bit of admin there. Apologies for the 2 seconds. Yeah,
that's all right.
It's quite aggressive. This thing says you kick the guest off. It's like, it's not really what I want to do. Like, that man's just given us some incredible insights, and you've got to click a button that says kick off guest, and it's aggressive. Just below that is like ban guest. That's really aggressive, isn't it? I mean, that was, geez, incredible download there, and I think there was no holding back in terms of, the saying of the secret sauce, and I think call it the secret sriracha. Kind of dished it out, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's like what I liked about it, the fact that he didn't kind of sugarcoat it. And I think also for me, a lot of the time there's this kind of perception that influencer marketing is you stick some cash in, you get an output from it. And I think, what he's shown here, that there is a process behind it. You do have to work with people over a longer term. You do have to set the expectation right. And, there's this kind of thing, isn't there, about like, well, look, people will often say influencer marketing doesn't work because maybe they've spent, 5-10 grand on one post, realistically, not a great thing to do. But actually then with that, then what have they then done with that post with the rest of their channels? So maybe they've done a great post, but is their website a steaming pile of dog turd? Maybe. So it's kind of fitting everything together for it to work.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's just like, it's time and time again, we're just hearing from people how they don't utilize the stuff across site, right? And they're doing all this hard work to get this awesome content created, and then they're going, okay, cool. But then what about the user journey once we get there? Like, what happens when somebody goes, okay, cool, I've just watched Molly May promote this product. I get to the website, I'm like, well, what's going on here? Is she the only person that's ever done this? And then you go, okay, well, was she paid to do this? Well, maybe she was. Okay, geez, am I really going to buy into an ad at this point? Whereas if you use that all over site and you use all your other influencers that you've got, people that have bought your product, people that have unboxed your product, and actually get that in the user journey and in the flow, and make sure that when you're using those influencers, you're actually building dedicated landing pages to them.
Yeah.
It's just wasted. If you're just going, just give them a link and tell them to go straight to the homepage, user journey terrible. Whereas if they go to like a fully branded page for that influencer, it looks way more polished, right?
Oh, definitely. But it's we keep, I think when we've kind of been discussing, when we go through all this stuff, is that a lot of the time there is still this perception in e-commerce about silos. Influencer marketing sits here, PPC sits here, and Conor, it's not just us as agency guys going, you should do this. As a brand, he's saying there, make sure these things are reused, repurposed, crossover. And, it's like when you think about email marketing, ultimately our goal as an agency when we're working on email marketing is to give a representation that is equal to the experience on the site. And that should be the same with influencer marketing PPC. Every channel that people can come across your brand on, you can't have one of those things that is weak or inconsistent, because ultimately off the back of that, then people see straight through it. And it doesn't need to be a lot of work. Like Conor mentioned there, we asked him about the question about ads versus influencers. Start with influencers, get the content, put it on site, put it on PPC. Yeah, great.
Repurpose.
Yeah. Right? I know it sounds like a bit of a broken record. Day in, day out, you and I, we see it. We don't see that happening. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it now.
I think we're not going to talk about this as like a roundup session after the podcast. I think we just talk about Adam's Red session.
Yeah, I do feel a bit like Victor Meldrew from One Foot in the Grave, or whatever it was called. Shout out to anyone over 30 who knows what I'm talking about, but there we go.
Mate, I'm almost 40 and I don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, but you're a Safa, so it doesn't count.
So something that did come up again, it's a hat trick, 3 weeks in a row. Social media, commerce. Next topic was SEO and paid advertising strategies. This week, influencer marketing. The word is authenticity. Authenticity.
Easy for you to say.
I've got to try and say it correctly, right? But 3 weeks in a row, all different places where you could be doing things, and the word authenticity has come through again, and again with everything that they're doing. So I kind of touched on this quite a bit. He said, he doesn't want to direct the people too much because he wants their posts and everything to be authentic. And, it's exactly what we're saying with everything that you're putting out online and everything you're doing on your website. It's got to be authentic, right?
I mean, I think, what he demonstrated when he's spoken to us is that because they go through that process of properly vetting people, properly researching people, one thing I think that came across there, that in his mind, when he approaches that influencer, he knows that the objectives that he's got as a company and the values and the morals that he's got within business are then similar to that person. And he's been bit on the arse a few times because, look, shit didn't go the way that he wanted it to go. But
everything.
Yeah. And it's like, that's, I think, the way that you get it, rather than, saying, look, going to them and say, or anyone indeed, or any kind of platform and say, look, we want you to be authentic and your true self. If that person doesn't align in the first place, you're never going to hit that mark. So, just slow the hell down for a second. Take your time then to do that vetting people to see if they do actually feel the way that you feel about the world, about products, about their beliefs, and then go into it. But again, people see through when it is manufactured.
Yeah, 100%. The other word that came up again, I don't know if it's a hat trick, but it's definitely come up twice, community. And I think, that is the buzzword of what's going around and everything that we do these days in e-commerce. And I think Conor laid out quite a great strategy of how people are actually using community with their influencers and mixing those two together now. Actually, it's taking the power of one and power of the other one, mixing that together. And now you've got two strong elements of a business playing well together as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like you mentioned, sort of represent there, you've got Pure Sport, Daniel Tem, creating the running club. Look, we can talk about Gymshark forever. Look, we love you, Gymshark guys, but everyone talks about it till the cows come home. There are a lot of other people doing that kind of community and in-person type events now. And I definitely think that, if you have a, and I think the word community as well, it doesn't necessarily need to mean that you've got something regular. You might just have a band of people who bloody love what you do. So get them down to an event, create something. It doesn't need to be of a massive cost. But like, when I was talking about with kind of doing that brunch idea, the cost of that in reality doesn't need to be that significant. Yes, maybe to get one of the bigger influencers, there's no cost there. But the outputs that you get from that, in terms of then the promotion that's going to happen off the back of all those people attending, all the content that you create off the back of it, that's of a massive value. So I think, even if brands are not in the position where they're thinking like, well, look, we need to do something more regularly, or having kind of like an online community, whether that be, a Facebook group, whether it be a school community, or it might be, it still can be something that you can use regardless of how how many people you've got within your world. Yeah.
And Conor had actually said to us before we jumped on how he uses a community to actually go and do product research, essentially. Right? He's talking to everybody about going, okay, cool. What about this product? How does this fit in? And his people that are actually his biggest brand advocates, his influencers, are giving him that feedback when he's talking to them.
Yeah.
That again is just absolute gold, right?
Yeah, totally. And, we're coming back to the idea of repurposing, trying to squeeze as much juice out of everything that you do. And that's another element of it, again, I think that gets overlooked. We are shit at asking our own customers what they think about what we do. We are shit at asking our customers what they want. We send, and it's the same for any type of business, agencies as well. But again, with brands, maybe you send out a Poxy NPS survey every 3 months. What's that going to do? You've got people there who want to talk to you, who talk to you anyway. Ask them the damn question.
The problem is most people are just using the NPS in one format, and they're going, hey, tell us what you think from us from 1 to 10. How likely are you to refer us? That's not an NPS survey. No. You want to figure out exactly what's going on there. Use that thing. If anybody goes underneath a 6, ask them a specific question. Say, what, if they've bounced, what stopped you from bouncing today? What was terrible about the purchasing experience? Why have you given us such a low score? Probing questions on that. And then the next people are, you're 6 to 8 and go, okay, cool. What could we have done better? 8 onwards, 9, 10. So everybody gives you 9, 10. Great. What did you love most about it? What made you purchase today? What were you looking for before you came and purchased from us today? Just asking more questions from your customers very subtly, constantly, you're going to build up that feeling. And you know what the best thing is? If somebody gives you a crap score and you go out and you improve that thing, you get to target them again and go back to them and say, hey, by the way, we've done this thing. We would love to have you back and get you to purchase from us again. You know what? They're probably going to go, hell yes, because I've helped you improve that. So let's see if my improvement worked, and let's go and buy that product.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, people forget that actually that is part of customer care as well, of making sure you ask those questions. And even if the answer is bad, like you say, you're going to learn something from it to either do more of or do less of. Secondly, as well, then, with having that ability to show to a brand, look, we do actually care what you think about. We do want to ask you some questions that maybe don't result in great answers for us. That, again, deepens that relationship between the customer and the brand, which so many people still don't do.
Yeah. Changing lanes a bit. One of the things that I asked Conor, and I was being intentionally trying to be leading into this, and what I was trying to get at was people are trusting your influencers, one, to get them on site, build the trust there with them. I think the debate point here would be, if people trust that influencer more than your brand, why aren't you making them the face of your brand?
It's a hard one, isn't it? Because and I think this is the problem. I think that maybe people get a little bit stuck on influencers, because ultimately, what are people buying into? And I think the risk, I guess, in some respects, isn't it, is that if people are buying into that influencer more than your brand, if something goes wrong with that influencer, like it did with Conor, then the shit hits the fan. And I kind of wonder, is this something that needs to be thought about in terms of, number one, do the due diligence, but secondly, as well, making sure that you don't have such long agreements or such long relationships with influencers that you can back away from that should you then need to, should things not go as they need to be.
Yeah, definitely a control thing. I think the other side of it is, and we've seen it more and more, influencers are starting their own brands, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're going to go make them this massive ambassador, they realize how much money you're making. Guess what they're going to do in the background? They're just going to go pay someone to go and do it. I think years ago, I remember somebody spoke about Gordon Ramsay, and they approached him to be sort of the face of their brand. I might be getting the name completely wrong. Maybe it was Gordon, maybe it wasn't. But he turned around and said, well, why would I ever do that? I'd just start my own. That's what these guys can do these days.
Yeah, I mean, Molly May's done that, hasn't she? Let's face it. Molly May was someone obviously that Conor's worked with, and I think still does do bits with as well. But she's obviously just launched her brand. I suppose, in Conor's situation, maybe that will be helpful, because ultimately he wouldn't be competing, because she's gone down kind of the women's clothing route as a fashion brand. But I suppose, obviously, like you say, the danger is that if they then go into a competing niche or vertical, then it's like puff, overnight they're following that influence and they're gone. But I think this is when you look at the Kardashians, and as much as it pains me to talk about them because I have to watch the damn thing with my wife, they are very smart in the way that they do it, is that they tend to then make sure that they don't necessarily have competing products that they then work with. There might be a subtle difference in terms of the specific ICP or the specific market for it, but they're very smart, I think, in the way that they do that. But yeah, I'm going to start talking about the Kardashians now because I just want to.
Please don't. Please don't. So I think the last one here, a little wrap up of the talk. I think this is more one I want to get information from you. I want to get the lowdown. I know that you guys had a big debate at the eCom Collab Club last month, and Rich was poking the bear going just now with his questions. Brands are obsessed with follow accounts, but micro influencers often outperform big names. Why are they still wasting budget on these big guys if that is the strategy? And what were the arguments on both sides there that everybody's bringing up?
So I think the argument on the side of the larger guys was that ultimately it was a volume thing and a numbers game, in the sense of, obviously, look, the bigger guys have access to more accounts, and therefore ultimately you're going to get more exposure from that. I think the other side of it with the micro influencer side was, and I think, this is something that, I know Sam talked a lot about from Batch, was that he wants people to, when they are doing posts about Batch, for it to feel real and to be real. And although, yes, they've got a smaller proportion of people that are following them, then actually the conversion rate there in terms of the value of the sales will actually probably be higher. And it feels, the discussion for me really feels like very much kind of the stuff that we would talk about from CRO perspective. When you're looking at a cohort of different customers, you break that down into smaller segments, and then you fine tune that message to that smaller segment in order to then convert. So yes, it's a smaller pot that you're drawing from, but actually the chances of then generating revenue are going to be higher, because you are then going to have a conversion rate that is higher within that group rather than teeny tiny one at that bigger level. For me, like as a consumer, I hate all the manufactured bullshit. For me, what resonates with me is that when I see someone wearing something and I then go and do that research on them, and it's how I actually came across Batch. I remember actually seeing someone wearing, and I think it was Spencer Matthews, and I thought, shit, that suit's nice. I wonder where that's from. So that again is all authentic, because literally we're just posting a picture of him at an event. I think, when you have it, like they say, they're sat there, hey, this great product that I just put on my face. By the sounds of it, kind of saying that kind of stuff works for around the US, but not maybe so much in the UK. So, for me, I'm definitely on the micro side. But look, horses for courses. Some people will disagree, and some people have success with others.
I mean, like you mentioned this here, cohort analysis, right? I wonder how many of those people are actually coming and they're buying once, and then how many of them are actually coming back and actually generating lifetime value for you as well. It'll be interesting, like we've done that study with Black Friday, Cyber Monday cohorts, and it's always the discount hunter, somebody that's been given a discount and is shopping during a discount season, never come back unless it's discount season again, right? And that's always like massive proof in the pudding. You go, okay, well, we acquired all these customers during this influencer's run of posts and promotion of us. Well, let's go and look at all those people, and especially if you've got the UTM codes, let's go and look at that full cohort of people that purchased then. Yeah, you're going to have to wait 3 to 6 months, whatever it is, whatever your reordering life cycle is. But go and look at that cohort and actually go and say, okay, cool. Were those guys just coming here because they got given a 10% discount from the influencer, or are they just somebody that tried it out from that influencer, or is that influencer generating sticky customers for us? And then you can, the debate will be over. Then you go, okay, well, micro influencers, yes, generates us customers that stick around, generate us tons of customer lifetime value, versus these big guys that just generate people that just churn through different brands constantly, and no point in them sticking around, because in fact we made no money off them off that first purchase anyway. So we don't want that type of shopper with us, right? Yeah,
exactly. And I think, when you get that situation of the fact that you find out that different groups of customers aren't as profitable or aren't actually as positive for your business as you think, it's time to actually switch the focus. And I think the sooner you do that, the better.
Well, let's wrap that up. Have you got anything else to add, or should we just move on?
No, I want to go to the good, the bad, and the scary. What have you got for us this week, sir?
That's a build-up. The good. Let's start with the good. It's always good to start with the good. This was pretty crazy when I saw it. Brits splurge a whopping, almost close on 9% of their income on online shopping. Now, you're probably going, that's a cool stat, but what does that mean? Well, highest in the world, which is freaking mental if you think about it. The little island there, crazy online spenders. Put that in a bit of perspective for you. It's more than double of what the French and what the Americans spend. They spend less than 4.5%, basically. I don't know the exact figure, but that is it. So the Brits are more than double of what their annual income is on online shopping. Any insights here? Why on earth do you think this is?
Yeah, I mean, because I suppose, like, on the one hand, we always look at the US as, like, the god of ecom, don't we? In terms of where it sort of really kind of took off from. But I suppose the thing is, like, in terms of the UK, benefit that you've got here is we've got that kind of speedy delivery culture that I think has been born out of, what really kind of started out with the likes of people like Just Eat, Deliveroo, that there's now then spread into product. And I think, equally as well, then, because we've then got that ability to move product quickly over a short period, over a smaller distances, I think, ultimately that probably helps with it. I think, the other thing as well is, if you think about, I guess, the history of e-commerce, ultimately, when you think about Amazon Prime, click and collect, that kind of thing, the UK, again, I remember was a big adopter of that early on. It really did their throughput. It was very fast. And I think, again, we've grown up, within this culture of sort of e-commerce discounts and getting people, involved in that. I think
so adaptability, basically, the UK's adapted faster, and this was probably a trend that we'd probably see with other countries now picking that percentage up as well, right?
Definitely. And I think, we've kind of led that way of kind of being able to say, look, you can trust these online payments. We do believe in the trust of online transactions. I think, PayPal kind of set the precedent for this in the UK of making sure that people did start to feel secure. I mean, even, kind of back in the days when eBay was a predominant player in ecom, I think having that secure transaction through PayPal then paved the way for a kind of being in our culture of buying online. And also, look, we're tight bastards, aren't we? In the UK, we
clearly not, because you're spending a lot online.
We are, but we like a bargain, don't we? And I think that's the thing. And it's like, when you look at when people buy, it's the whole thing about, this thing about TVs. People walk into a Currys, have a look at that 52-inch TV, piss off home, and then go order it online because they know they're going to get it cheap. And it's been a thing. I've seen articles in the press about it, there's a terminology for it about people doing it.
It's window shopping, essentially, right?
Yeah, but people do that, and Brits love that. And I think that's probably what drives it.
Yeah. Do you think the speed as well, the speed of delivery, and it used to blow my mind. You could order from Amazon and get that thing same day, right? It's like, because it's so small, the network for you to be able to get a product delivered, which probably actually feeds more into food and beverage, right? Food and beverage is probably sold a hell of a lot more. I would love to see a stat on that, of how big a food and beverage market is for online sales versus what food and beverage is in other countries.
Well, definitely. I mean, look, you've experienced it personally, haven't you? Because, look, obviously you moved from the UK to Australia sort of about a year or so ago. You've seen the difference personally, because I guess, like you say, when you were here, you'd order on Amazon, it will be there over in the afternoon or the day after.
That's correct. My wife ordered on Amazon.
What's the lead time now generally for Amazon for you guys in Oz?
I would say you're lucky to get it in 3 days. Like that is probably the quickest you're going to get, especially where I live. I live in the Sunshine Coast. It's a little bit further away from most things. But like, I'm not surprised if that lead time's 2 weeks. Like, it's, you go, okay, well, if you're shipping it from Perth, you're shipping it from another country, basically. It's taking forever. Look, lead times to get your product, it's not as heavily driven. And I think that's probably a good thing for the smaller brands.
Yeah.
Small brands in the UK and the US feel that pressure, right? They feel that pressure from Amazon of next day delivery. And they go, well, how do we compete with that if we're selling the same like-for-like product, but you can get it tomorrow or even same day, like we were saying? But as a brand, I can only ship that to you 2-3 days. Here, they don't really have that issue because Amazon isn't as efficient. So therefore, there's not that benchmark of being efficient. So people that are shopping online aren't expecting it next day like everybody else. But my online shopping's dropped massively since getting here, because ultimately I just go, 2 weeks until I'll go to the shops before that, and I'll be able to get that in any case.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think you're right. There's kind of like a rough and a smooth with it, isn't there, in both respects? Because, like you say, in the UK, we've developed this culture of expectation where it is going to be, next day delivery. And I think, there hasn't, up until recently, been many mechanisms for those smaller brands to be able to tap into something like that. What I definitely have noticed, you've got companies out there like Evermile now, who are actually enabling those smaller brands to be able to access better rates for that same day delivery. And I do wonder, whether this year, particularly in the UK, we see more of that, where they're not just relying upon, those big, the DPDs of the world, those kind of guys. And actually you've got, smaller warehouses with smaller distribution areas, but then having that ability then to tap into that same day delivery situation. I think that's something that we might possibly see more of this year.
Yeah. We've gone off on quite a nice tangent there. Shall I move on to the bad?
Bad. Go for it.
The bad. So, I'm guilty of it. All the hype last week about the US government announcing that massive investment. What was it? 800 billion?
8 billion, I think.
800 billion. Stargate project. Look, there was all that hype. Everyone was going, AI, part of it. But guess what?
Go on.
Massive consumer pullback because of DeepSeek. And if you haven't heard of it, DeepSeek is the Chinese competitor to ChatGPT. Came in and basically has proved that you don't need all this research and development to get these AI tools running. Basically, it's got a model up and running for I think the exact figures, but a fraction of the cost of what ChatGPT has done. And apparently, I haven't used it, but apparently it works pretty much just as good. So don't know what's going on there, but the bad is 1 trillion. So 800,000 invested by the US government, 1 trillion off the books of NVIDIA. Basically, 17% drop in their market cap. So plummeted overnight. I think that was on Friday. So day after we were speaking about all of this, I think they got a nice little boost from the announcement of Stargate, and then that just dropped right off the face of the earth there with this announcement, or not the announcement, but the discovery of how cheap the Chinese team are building this DeepSeek. That's it. So pretty bad there.
What do you think is going to happen? How's that going to change the market in terms of what we'll see as end consumers of AI?
End consumers, it's only a good thing, right? Because this is probably incorrectly on the bad, because it's actually a good thing for your end consumer. Because ultimately, it's going to make everything cheaper and more competitive. So the US companies are probably scrambling right now to figure out how they're developing this product so cheaply to try and replicate that as well. So there's going to have to be more research into it, right? So you're probably going to see a big spike in them spending more cash to try and figure out how to do this. I would love to be able to speak all the technicalities, but I don't have a clue on all of those. But essentially, it's only going to get cheaper because you've got this free model of DeepSeek, but then you've got ChatGPT on the other side charging $200 a month for their premium version. But, ultimately, it's just going to create more competition in the market. There's going to be more around. If it gets cheaper to develop and it's easier to run these things, that's good all around. So, I think it's only going to accelerate, just like we spoke last week about the acceleration and what the Stargate project was going to do for AI. I think competition in the space is only a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the from an end consumer point of view, and look, between if you think about you and I, you obviously invested a lot of time with AI, and I sort of dipped my toe into it. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I guess my only concern is from an end customer's point of view, and equally then the impact on businesses, with having so much choice out there of a relatively new technology for the vast majority of the public and the businesses, does that mean that people use those in a weaker way because they're hopping from one tool to the other? That's my only worry with it when there is kind of that increase in competition.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I've kept my focus on ChatGPT. Strongly feel that they're going to be developing something that's going to be competitive in the market, regardless of what we think. So I'm putting sort of all my eggs in the basket of ChatGPT. So that's one reason why, DeepSeek came up, but I thought, I'm not even going to get involved with that. I'm paying $20 a month. I don't have the premium version of ChatGPT. I haven't had a use for that just yet. Ultimately, there's still so much for me to learn on ChatGPT. Every day that I work with it and every day that I look at it, I'm discovering more and more and more and more ways to use it. So if I don't deepen my knowledge on this one tool, ultimately it's the same thing of niching down with everything, right? So if you go and look at every tool under the sun right now around AI, you're never going to be the master of that thing. Unless it's your full-time job, you're never going to be the master of more than, I would say, 5 tools. So, niche down, and I would say pick one that's going to get you the majority of the way. Use it right now. Get to grips with understanding AI. That's the most important thing, because ultimately, eventually, this is all going to stabilize, and there's going to be a standardization of some sort from a usability perspective. Eventually, everyone's going to figure out what works best on different tools. It's the same thing with social media platforms. If you know how to use one social media platform now, you know how to use them all, because ultimately they've all copied each other. Because the users become, and exactly like an e-commerce website, users become used to using a certain thing a certain way. So you'll be dumb if you bring out a competition and you just completely left field how you use this thing. You want it to be sort of following that standard of how things do this. And then naturally you'll see progression. Naturally you'll see ChatGPT put out a different way how to use its systems. And then the other tools will follow suit as well. Or the other ones will be the driver in that, and then ChatGPT will have to catch up. But ultimately, from my side, is back one horse and go for it. Unless that company goes bankrupt, you're not losing. So I'm going to carry on going with the ChatGPT from.
Cool. Let's take it to the scary then. What's scary shit?
It's still AI. I think it was towards the end of last week. Could have been the start of this week. AI, ChatGPT, like I'm just saying, released its first true agentic model. Now, for those of you that are looking at me going, what the hell is agentic? Agentic is the ability for that tool to actually go and do work for you. Again, haven't played around with this tool. I've seen some videos. I've seen people using it. It opens up a browser. You can tell this thing, and you can say, hey, ChatGPT, it's called Operator. Shit name, but I will. Operator. You go into Operator with OpenAI now, and you go and purchase me the best suit you can find me right now, and it'll open up a little browser, and you'll see like the mouse moving around. You'll see it like typing into the search bar. It almost takes control of your keypad and your mouse, and it'll go and do that thing. Now, safeguards in place right now. It won't finish the checkout. It'll ask you for final permission. It'll ask you for any sensitive information for you to go and enter that manually, but it'll do the research for you. It'll tell you the reasons why it's gone there. It'll go to those certain websites and it'll actually do these tasks for you. I'm using the e-commerce example because ultimately it's an e-commerce podcast. So what does this mean for us, the scary? And the scary thing is, still to this day, we've been talking about develop mobile first, design mobile first. Well, do we now have to design chatbot first? It's are we getting to the point where you don't even have users on your website anymore? You've got some bot that just comes on and that's the one doing the research, finding your product, coming online and buying from you. So for me, the scary part is going, well, what the hell do we have to do next? What do we have to do now to accommodate this rise in this AI agentic models and how they will potentially be shopping on sites? And ultimately, these agentic models are becoming your assistant. So it'll be controlled by voice.
I was going to say, it sounds like to me that if you're in the e-commerce space, this would be probably a pretty good area to brush up on if you're thinking about your long-term career objectives, or if you're indeed just starting out in e-commerce. So yeah, maybe that's a hot tip. Maybe it's not. We'll see.
It's like, for years we've been doing it. Hey, Alexa, go and do this thing. I don't want my Alexa to turn on right now. You'll say that, but now you're going to be like, hey, ChatGPT, go and buy me X. And you will be able to trust that this thing will do its research. It'll know you inside out. It'll know what your preferences are. It's going to do a better job of finding you that product and buying you that product than you can do yourself. For me, I'll go, hey, my brother-in-law's birthday is coming up. Can you go and buy a present for his 50th birthday? And off it'll go and it'll buy you a present, and all I have to do is maybe approve the credit card transaction. That's pretty crazy. For years, we've been designing a website for a human to use, but now we have to think about shit that the humans might not even be on my site in a few years' time.
It's a little bit scary, isn't it? Which is, guess why you put it into the scary section?
Yes, it is 100%. Why? Because I was scared.
We've got some events coming up, haven't we? Wanted to talk about as well.
Yes, I'm going to fire through these really quickly because we have banged on for more than what we should be doing today. 5th of February, ECC masterclasses are back. We are talking discounting that actually increases customer lifetime value. So I say we, not really us. We'll be there to sort of manage it. In fact, Adam will be there to manage it. We've got Chase Alderton from Monocle joining us, and this is a community exclusive event. So please do join in on that one. It will be a virtual event, so it will be live on a webinar, and you can join in, ask questions, and get involved with that one as well. Next up after that is 12th of February, 2 weeks' time, back in London. Rich Evans and Nathan Lomax are hosting. No, Adam? No, I'm lying. We have Radio Time, Selfridges, Dry Drinker, TLC Leggings, Pneumatic, aka Henry the Hoover, Cloris, Pookie, and none other than the man himself, Mr. Adam Pierce. Not hosting, but joining a panel. Talk about all things quantitative, or you talking about qualitative data.
Yeah.
Everybody else, well, not everybody else. I keep on getting these things wrong. Half of you guys talking about quant, and half of you guys talking about qualitative.
That's right. Yeah. So no, we've got a really good lineup, and I'll be there as well.
Nice bit of self-deprecation there.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You've got to be doing good.
Cool. And then last but no means least, 15th of February, ECC Learning. And again, none other than Mr. Adam Pierce presenting how to present in e-commerce so it doesn't suck. And that rounds out an event. But please, for the last one, spaces are limited. Make sure you get on Eventbrite, check out those links, and get yourself booked onto that course as well. Adam, anything to add before we close off there?
No, guys, look, thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. We really appreciate you being here live, and obviously if you're listening on replay as well. Do give us a like and a share on the listening platform that you're on. And obviously do check out the eCom Cloud Club on LinkedIn, as well as the community and the events we run to find out a bit more about how you can get involved, not only with our live events, but also with our podcast and community events as well. So yeah, thanks very much, guys.